Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'ala as-salah. Hayya 'ala as-salah. Hayya 'ala al-falah. Hayya 'ala al-falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. ويا إخوة الإيمان, my beloved brothers and sisters, we are gathered here once again with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala each week selects a very special group of people and give them the privilege and the honor and the permission and make their circumstances easy to be able to come to the masajid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Friday. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to help us to obey Him and do our duty towards Him. And those who have that desire, Allah makes it easy for them. And so, despite our jobs and despite the difficulties we have getting here, so many of us become the guests of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to arrive here. There are so many thousands more whom Allah did not allow that privilege and that blessing to be here today. So whenever you come to the Friday Jummah, you should treat it really as a special honor that Allah has placed on you to allow you to be able to arrive here to worship Him and to give thanks to Him. We are the believers, and our guidance is Al-Quran. And so when we recite the Quran and we read the Quran, we don't only read it for entertainment or to have enjoyment, but to really get instructions for life. And so we do have to pay attention when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks in the Quran. For everything in the Quran, as He says, it's correct, it's haqq, it's truth. And so it is from the Creator who is talking to us, helping us to be able to navigate life. And there is a short surah in the Quran which we teach our kids and which we all memorize from very young days of our life. The 103rd chapter of the Quran. And it goes, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran would swear by many things. And one of the reasons why he does so is to be able to draw our attention to those things which he swear by. This wala'as gets translated as by time or by time through the ages. So Allah swears by time. And then he makes a very profound statement, not a question. In fact, he uses two emphasis in the next verse. Innal insana lafi khusr. Twice. So most verily, certainly, assuredly, we would use in English to translate those things, which is giving points of great emphasis. And he says, verily, most definitely, humanity is in a state of loss. That they will lose. I swear by time, humanity will lose. What a profound statement to say, by the Creator who made us all. And as we begin to get depressed over this, Allah puts an accepted article, illa. And so he singles out some people to be an exception to this general rule. General rule, everybody will be in a state of loss. Except, so there is an exception clause here. And whenever there's an exception clause in a situation like this, that's what we want to pay attention to. To know what the exception is. It's like somebody coming in and saying, all of you are a bunch of losers, except our ears should perk up. Okay, I want to know who are these exceptions. I want to be among those. I don't want to be a loser. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Except those who believe, and عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ gets translated as good deeds, righteous deeds, pure deeds. Except those who believe and do righteous actions and exhort each other to truth and patience. So Allah makes 4 qualities. But what is really important out of these 4 qualities, there is one of it that he actually adds an adjective, a description. He says, except those who believe. He didn't classify the belief. He didn't say what kind of belief. It was just like those who believe, and the understanding people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it came to actions, he made an adjective. وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Because actions can be of many kinds. Our Sharia classifies 5 different kinds of actions. From wajib to mustahab to mubah, permissible, hated, and unlawful actions. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifies what kind of action the people who will win must do. عَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. And as all of us know, that our actions affect many things. When you do an action, it has a repercussion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For if you commit a sin, it will move you away from the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will move you away from the connection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if you do an act of worship, it will move you closer to Allah. So our actions affects the relationship we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we do an action, it also affects how people, it affects others that this action may interface with and interact with. Sometimes we may say a hurtful thing to someone. It affects them deeply sometimes. So your action, whether it's speech or act or physical movement, or whether you're writing something, it has an effect on others. And it creates either a terrible connection between you and those who this action affects, or it can create a good connection with them. So your action also affects fellow humanity. And then your actions also affect you. There's so many people walking around in which they are affected by their own past actions. They live in a state of regret. Sometimes they do something and they feel guilty. And so they're walking around with this guilt. Sometimes they do something that they feel sad that they've done. And it works in their mind. And it affects them continuously because of their own actions. And sometimes they don't forgive themselves. And then it gets to a point where eventually you have to go and visit Dr. Latif. Because it affects you deeply and works on you all the time. And so actions are real physical things that has an impact both on you, on people. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in defining those special people, says the action that we need to have is amal as-salihat. In another part of the Quran, in Surah Isra, Allah mentions, إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي هِيَ أَقْوَمُ وَيُبَشِّرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ أَنَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا كَبِيرًا. Here again, he mentioned this righteous action issue. And he says, verily, this Quran guides to that which is straight and upright. Straight and upright. Gives guidance. إِنَّ هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ يَهْدِي لِلَّتِي أَقْوَمُ. And it is good news. This Quran is also good news for those who do righteous action. To tell them that Allah has reserved for them ajran kabira, a mighty, huge reward is waiting for them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us one of the purposes of the Quran is to guide us, but also to let those people know that righteous actions will cause Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have restored for you this beautiful reward. And so, brothers and sisters, today I want to talk to you personally and to myself about this issue of righteous actions. Because if we are able to understand this and do it well, we will be able to have this reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding for us. And we will be able to move ourselves out of that category of losers into the category of winners. And the first thing to be concerned about with righteous action is motive. You know, quite often we are so worried about how to do something and what we have to do, we forget to ask why. Why am I doing it? Motive is really important in Islam. In a very famous ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reported by Umar ibn Khattab, and it's in Bukhari and Muslim, muttafaq alayh. Both have this hadith. It's considered one of the greatest hadith in Islam. Imam Shafi'i said that this hadith is equivalent to 1/3 of the religion. And he said it deals with over 70 matters of faith in the Sharia. This hadith. And this hadith is concerned with motive. إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى الله ورسوله فهجرته إلى الله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته للدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. That the Prophet ﷺ tells us that verily actions are by intentions, and we will be judged based on the intentions in which we do our actions. And so those of you, and then they comment on the hijrah, which the Muslims made from Mecca to Medina. And the hadith says, those of you who migrated with Allah with the intention to please Allah and His Messenger, then you will get the reward that deserve of pleasing Allah and His Messenger. But there were people who were migrating with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they were not going because of the command from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There were some of them going because there was a nice woman they wanted to go get married to, or some of them were going with the intention of having money. And so the hadith also comments on that. And those who had the intention, whilst they were traveling with the group who had this pure intention of pleasing Allah and His Messenger, there were those among them who were not going for that. They were doing the same action, the same righteous action of following Rasulullah but with a different intention. And the hadith says that they will get the reward for that, for the intention of having a woman or the money, and not the reward of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so intention is really important, brothers and sisters, that whatever we do, always check yourself. Because the essence of sincerity of ikhlas is to check, why am I doing this? couple of things. When you do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever you do, if you do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you change that action in being an ordinary one to being an act of worship, to being an act of ibadah. You immediately change the status of the action if your intention is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean you don't please people. I have to please my boss. A child tries to please their parents. There are many things we try to please, but it is with the understanding that pleasing my parents or pleasing my boss is part of the deen that Allah allows, and it is pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we must first of all make our intention lillah, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's another thing that happens when you do that. You change your focus from the result to the effort. What do I mean by that? If you're not doing something for Allah, purely for Allah, then you're doing it for some other benefit. Whether to get status, whether to have a good name, whether to get some financial benefit, whether to get... And what happens when you do it for that, you spend a lot of time focusing on the result. I'm doing it for this, so I want to see this, I want to get this. I'm doing it, I'm only talking nice to you, brother, because I'm hoping you'll put me in a nice position. Or I'm only being nice to you because I'm hoping you'll give me some money. Or I'm only being nice to you because I know you're hiring and I need a good job. What happens when a person does that is that they're focused on the result. When you do it for Allah, you are not focused on the result anymore. You are focused on the effort you're making towards that. It changes the perspective of how you view the action. Because now you're focused on the effort. And you're leaving the result at tawfiqu min Allah. You're leaving the result with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A third thing that happens is that it frees you from having to go please people. So many of our cultures raise us with this mentality that I have to worry about what somebody else think of me. I'm always worried about what people will think. I can't wear this dress. What people are going to say? We worry so much about what others think of us. And we sometimes change our lives to keep up with the Joneses, to try to have this appearance of success because we're trying to impress somebody else. When you say, I'm doing it for Allah, it frees you from that burden. As long as Allah is pleased. I'm hoping to get your pleasure too, but it is not essential. My focus is on pleasing Allah. I free myself from this burden of always having to do stuff so that others will say, oh, that's good. You don't have to be in this pretend game anymore. And we don't have to suck up to people just for a benefit. Recognizing that Allahu khayrul raziqin, everything that we got is from Allah. And only He has focus. So motive is the first thing when we're talking about the righteous action. And so I want everyone in the room, because this is kind of like theoretical concept, always check your intention. And a nice way to check intention is to say Bismillah before you do an action. It is very tough. I'm about to say something nasty about this person. I'm about to insult somebody. I'm about to backbite. If you train yourself to say Bismillah, it will give you pause. Because you will say, Bismillah, and I'm about to say something nasty about this boy, or this girl, or this institution. Suddenly, so it doesn't register. I'm saying Bismillah, oh man. It helps you to remind you, am I about to do this for Allah? So when you train yourself to say Bismillah before you do actions, it actually helps you and gives you that moment of pause. What am I about to do here? You know, is this for Allah? Check our intention. The second thing about righteous actions is the how. It's really important. It's not just having why, but how you do them is really important. We must make sure, if I am going to do something for Allah, I have to make sure I do it really good. Inna Allah katab al-ihsan ala kulli shay. Allah has prescribed ihsan, this attitude of excellence and professionalism. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it so well that I am proud of it. You know, we have sometimes people do stuff, and they're doing things for the masjid or doing things everywhere. But the quality in which they bring, they don't seem to have any care about it. Somebody got to go pick up, mop up after them. They sweep the floor, but somebody got to go sweep it again. Because there's no ihsan, there's no excellence with the action. And we are slowly as a community accepting mediocrity, accepting second-class quality work among ourselves. We accept that being late is okay. We have already accepted that. And we begin to lose our sense of standards. And so Amilus Salihat means you have to keep your standards high. And whatever I do, I will meet it on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And so I have to do it well. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, this was how they were. Ali radiallahu anhu, when he makes wudu, they say his face used to change the color. And they said, what's that to you? He said, do you know who I'm going before? Going before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It affects him emotionally. That he's about to make wudu to pray. To go in front of the greatest. And it affects him, his attitude towards the wudu. Because of ihsan. Some of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, when they have thorns in their feet, they would tell people, take it out when I'm in the salah. Because if you take it out now, it's going to be too painful. But when I'm praying, I am so focused on my salah, that's a good time when you can try to dig it out from my feet. And get it. Because I wouldn't be able to feel it, I'm so focused. They were always keen to make sure whatever they do was done with this sense of excellence. The Prophet ﷺ, when he went to Medina, he stayed by one brother's house, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari had a two-story house. And so the Prophet ﷺ tells him, I will take he actually cleared up his top floor for the Prophet ﷺ. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, no, I will take the bottom floor. He was so excited to be the nearest neighbor of the Prophet ﷺ. So he gave them the bottom floor. The Prophet said, because people come to meet me, and it's easier for me to interact with them from the bottom floor. They don't have to come to a higher floor. One would feel that I'm so privileged to have Rasulullah, but Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was not satisfied that he had done enough. He became terrified, in fact. He said, how is it possible that we're going to be staying above the Prophet ﷺ? This is a problem for us. He and his wife. Maybe we will interfere with the revelations that are coming from Allah to the Prophet ﷺ, that we are in between. You know, that it will affect this. They were so worried, they were tippy-toeing around the edge of their apartment, their second floor, all night long. The next day, Ayyub al-Ansari said to the Prophet, we didn't sleep the whole night. Because we were so terrified that, of this situation. And the Prophet said, no, it's okay. It's just convenient for me. The next night, they accidentally pour a jar of water from the top floor. And that created such a huge crisis for he and his wife. They sat it up, and the next day he said, I can't. You have to take the top floor. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, okay, I will take the top floor. 7 months the Prophet ﷺ stayed by him. Abu Ayyub al-Ansari was one of those, throughout his life you will see excellence upon excellence in terms of how he behaved. And all of the Sahaba was like this. They were very concerned about excellence. And we have got to get back to that. Amilus Salihat. I am doing this for Allah. I cannot allow anything to go up from me to Allah unless I have given everything I have to make sure that that product is precious and special. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, I want to be able to say, that is mine. Not to shy away and say, oh, I didn't even know I did that. That flyer that you asked me to do, that is mine. Did I do that? You asked me to serve the lunch. Did I spill all this rice on the floor? You asked me to vacuum. Did I miss those spots? Didn't seem to care. Because when the why factor is not in, we don't do it if nobody's watching. And so how is really important. And we need to develop the mentality of an artist. If you look at how an artist operates, very different from regular people. When an artist sets out to do a painting, the mindset of the artist. He has in his mind first something that he wants to make a reality on that canvas. So he has a picture in his mind, what I want to bring to a reality. And an artist will sit there. It doesn't matter to him how long it takes. It doesn't matter to him if nobody buys it. That's irrelevant to him. It doesn't matter to him if the painting looks ugly to you or not. He is focused on bringing what is in his mind to that canvas. No matter how long it takes, no matter what it takes, no matter how expensive it is, he's not concerned about anything except bringing that image exactly how he is in his mind to that painting. And when he finishes, he becomes satisfied. And he don't care whether you like it or you don't like it. Because it was not done for that purpose. It was done because there was a yearning inside of him or her to bring this to a reality for the world to enjoy. And this is how we must approach Amal Salihat. That I am bringing this action purely to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm going to do it to the best that I can. And whether you like it or not is irrelevant to me. Doing it for Allah. That's why Imam Bukhari would stand on it. He stood on the square one day and nobody showed up for his lecture. And he delivered it anyway. People thought he was crazy. He said, no, I left home with the intention to deliver this for the sake of Allah. And it's irrelevant if nobody shows up. I will deliver it anyway. And he delivered his lecture to no one. People passing, what kind of crazy person is it? Yet that incident, I'm talking about it today, and numerous scholars have talked it throughout the ages, it became an icon to demonstrate how powerful when you make a niyyah. It has now become instead, so nobody listened to that lecture, but yet it is rehearsed and lauded. The ones that a lot of people showed up, we don't remember what they were. But the one where nobody showed up became because he had the intention, he came and he delivered it. And so we must make sure, especially now, whatever you do, whether in your jobs, whether in our careers, whether at school, anything that is coming from you, do it in a way that you're proud of it. That you're doing it from the best of you. You're giving the best of you. And the last thing about the Amal Salihat, as our time is coming to an end, is how much you must ask. You see, we need Amal Salihat and Yawm al-Qiyamah. And so we must live our lives doing as much of it as we can. So many of us live so hesitant. We connect to 2 or 3 places. I come to Jummah once a week. I may make a couple of salah. I'm in one organization. And we think that that's enough of the Amal Salihat that will be enough for us. No. If you look at the tradition which we came from, Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, they say he wrote over 350 to 700 books. You see those old people, Imam Bukhari compiled over 300,000 hadith. He didn't have Google. He didn't have computers. And from that he sifted it down. There were people who were very, very active doing as much as they can with their lives. Umar al-Khattab, after leading people in the day, would still not be satisfied and would walk the streets at night to do more. Amal Salihat. We do 2 or 3 things. Oh, I'm in the youth group, and I'm in the female association, and that's it. Ask ourselves, am I doing as much as I'm able to? Most of us will say no. I am giving Amal Salihat maybe 5% of my capacity that Allah has blessed me with. Why? Allah said, by time you're going to lose. Why spending every day? We're going closer to the grave. Why are we not involved in as much goodness as we possibly can eke out of every single day? When you get up in the morning, you say, today, I'm going to do as much good deeds as I can. That piece of garbage that I drive past every day on the road, today I'm going to stop my car and move it to the side. I'm going to get engaged every day in doing as much of good deeds as I can. And so the believer, these are the 3 things they focus on. Why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, to do it according to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I have to do it giving it the best version of that from myself. And lastly, how much of it I'm doing. And so young people, as you are young, you have much to live for. Do not allow your youth to see you just very minimally involved. If there is one community that should inspire you, it's this community. Because in this community, we see people 80 years, 79 years, 78 years, 82 years of age, active and involved in such a tremendous way that it truly inspires me. When I look at our community, some of the older folks, and how much of Amal Salihat they do, despite their problem of vision, despite their problem of diabetes, despite the pains and aches, despite all the medical problems that they go through, they show up, they're committed, and they give so much. And that should inspire young people to say, we can do 10 times more. And so this is our deed, and this is what we have to do. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, those who are involved in this of Amal Salihat, He has reserved for them something real big and real special. A big, huge, giant reward that is Allah is holding for us. So He said, well, Bashir, give good news. When do you give good news of something special? He said, give good news to those people who are practicing and involved in Amal Salihat, that I have for them a really special reward. That is big, kabir. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us like this. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to not be among those who lose, but to be among those who win. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire all of us that wherever you are, any action that comes for you, make it a quality one. Make it for Allah. And do as much of it as you can, inshallah. Push yourself beyond what you think you can handle. Ramadan teaches us that. Many of us can do 10 times more than we think we can. May Allah inspire our hearts and make our steps firm to do so, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا طيبا مباركا فيه ونشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده ونشهد ان محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وما ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنه وفي الاخره حسنه وقنا عذاب النار ربنا اننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للايمان ان امنوا بربكم فامنا ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم واقيموا